Good evening, good morning, and good night. Welcome to Inappropriate Radio. It's your host, Shauna. Let's get into this. So, hi guys. I hope all is well. Tonight we're going to be talking about, the discussion is mainly about time, right? But the Most High, as I was, because I actually left some of my notes behind. I don't know how I did that, but I left some of my notes behind. But that is not the thing, right? As I was sitting here asking the Most High, what did He want me to do because I left my notes? He said we're going to do a segment on time. A series on time, right? But I am being guided and instructed to still move forward with the topic of the calendar. Everyone knows that Ethiopia is 7 years behind. They're moving on a different calendar. There are actually several different cultures that observe different calendars. They don't go by the same exact thing that we may consider a time frame. Now, before we get too deep into it, I just want to first of all state that there are over 40 calendars, right? Some are old and outdated and no longer in use. Some are still in use. Some of these calendars have transitioned over from the BC or before Christ, or the BCE, the before Christ era. Some of those calendars have switched over and they're still being used today. A lot of the calendars that we know of came AD, right? After death, or CE, Christ, or Common Era, right? There are different, like I said, there are over 40 calendars. And I think, see, how I'm looking at this from a spiritual lens is that this AD, after death, or the CE, the Common Era, is pretty much the mark of the New World Order. Technically, there's no real way to track back anything before documentation. So we can literally change history with the stroke of a pen. We can make up anything as we go and just jot it down and wait for those coming after us to follow it, understand it, believe it, and apply it, right? However, I just wanted to make sure we went into this for multiple reasons, but with mainly the first one just being that there are different concepts to the different calendars, and the Gregorian calendar, which is what we follow in America, it follows a solar year, which is basically the time frame that it takes for the Earth to orbit the sun. It's around 365 days, while the lunar year is 12 full cycles of the moon, and it's 354 days. And this is these are monthly cycles of the moon. So, every month we get a new moon. It goes through all the different phases, and that is how they used to count the months before the Gregorian. Now, there's also another type, but the issue with this is I just want to say this first. There is a possible chance, right, that we are actually younger than what we think. There's a chance that we've been counting wrong all along as far as our life, and just everything overall, as far as as far as time and everything is concerned. And why I know that this is so crazy is because being Muslim, of course, you pay attention to times and the issue here with me is that the Gregorian calendar doesn't account for the time frame where it's counting time for the orbit of other systems in the galaxy. We'll get into that later, but I just want to first pose. I wanted to first pose the idea of us possibly missing out on time, or the opportunity, or the awareness of the opportunity for the heavens to be open, just based off of what I've come across. Because there's a difference between the lunar calendar and the solar calendar, right? Remember, there are different times, different time frames, right? So, I mean, even that within itself is just, it's telling, because we're in one region of the world, right? Let's just say America. We have Central Time, Eastern Time, Mountain Time, Pacific Time, right? We have all these different variations of time for one system of times, and we're in one region, right, of the world. But then when you go to places like Africa or China or Europe, let's just say Eurasia, right, these mass continents, the time frames are even broader. So it's making me wonder, like, what is the actual real time? Why do we have so many different systems for time? Then I started looking at the actual amount of hours that the sun is up and that it's down. So obviously the seasons, the time is going to move back. The winter, we have shorter days, which means the sun is not out as long as it is during the summer. So I just kind of did the math. Like, after he said that, I was there thinking, and then I had did the zodiac topic and started looking into how it's split up within day and night, and it doesn't really specify like an exact time for birth chart interpretation. Then I started doing the time, and I said, wow, we really don't have 24 hours in a day. Okay, so for an example, right now, let's just say the sun is going to set at 8:13. I'm looking at my phone, and it's saying that the sun will set at 8:13, right? And then you go over, and then you say 5:33 for the sun to rise, right? Now that's only 9 hours. That's only 9 hours. So let's count from 8 to 5. It's 9 hours, right? Let's just say 10. Let's just throw the extra minutes in there and round everything off. So that's about 20 hours. So where are these extra 4 hours coming from? Is it a portal being open when we're asleep? Is it a portal just being open? I mean, whether you go to sleep or not, right? The time is going to pass. So is this a portal being open where this extra time is coming from? Like, where are these extra 4 hours coming from? And I'm saying that a portal is being open because, number one, how are we pulling these 4 hours out of thin air? Because obviously we're going to do that again, right? If the sun is coming up at 5:30 and then going back down at 8, it's the same 9 hours again, right? From 8 to 5, 5 to 8. The sun goes down at 8:13, comes back at 5:30, and then it goes back down at 8:13. So that's just 9 to 10 hours a day, right? That cycle. So again, if we have 24 hours in a day, where are those extra 4 hours coming from? So it's leading me to wonder, are there portals being opened? Are the hours, or is the time itself being manipulated? Does this vary depending on your geographic location? I have so many things that I'm just wondering, because the more and more I think about it, the more and more I realize it's so much that doesn't add up. It doesn't make sense. And then what I was getting at as far as the calendar, we have different types of lunar, calendars. So we have the sidereal, the tropical, and then we're going to go into like the ones that are actually like lunar, like the Babylonian, the Chinese. The lunar solar is basically the calendar that keeps the months on a lunar cycle, but then their intercalary months are added to bring the lunar cycles in. Now, again, this is the lunar solar. It tracks the tides and waxing and waning of the moon in order to predict floods of rivers and whatnot, right? This is a totally different type. So you have the lunar solar, the solar, so on and so forth. We're going to go into it. There are a lot of different calendars that are still in use today that have totally different, systems. We have the Islamic calendar. We're going to get into it. I just wanted to make sure we discussed this before we started talking about time, because it's more than likely going to come up. Solar calendars are based on the planet's position around the stars. They basically give you seasons, and they don't really pay attention to the moon itself. Lunar calendars are easier to track, with the moon being constantly changing phases, even in one night. But the lunar calendars don't track the sun, right? And this is, where this is basically what will determine when Ramadan is, right? The lunar calendar, it tracks the sighting of the sun, the moon, right? Lunar solar, they track both the sun and the moon. They do like leap months. They require leap months to keep up with the solar year, right? To keep in time with the solar year. So I just wanted to make sure like we first went over that. By the way, the Gregorian is a solar calendar, obviously based on the definition, right? But I just wanted to make sure, like, we went over that first, because we're going to talk about time, and we're probably not going to start the series yet. It's going to come back up, and this is more than likely going to come back up. I just wanted to, because it's a lot of information, okay? And the question I want to pose is it possible that being on this Gregorian system is stopping us from having or being aware? Because if it's happening, it's happening, whether we know it or not, right? But is this system preventing us from being spiritually aware of the times, important times, right, of celestial activities that may benefit us? And I'm going to get into that because there's a lot of information that's out there. But I'm going to stop here. We're at 16 minutes. I love you guys. I hope all is well. I hope you... Oh, today was Monday. I was supposed to go live. I've been getting used to recording. But yeah. And I'm going to start doing this every segment. Just if I'm going live, it's probably going to be around 8-ish. If it's pre-recorded, the segment should be up no later than 8:30. Just depends on, what's happening on my end. I noticed that this app is kind of weird sometimes. And also because of my schedule, and I want to make sure that I'm sitting down most of the time when I'm recording or uploading. But, okay, I love you guys. I hope all is well. And, yeah, enjoy your weekend. Hope you're gonna drink some water, eat some fruit and some vegetables, mind your business. Okay? I love y'all.